Dr. José Escamilla is with us now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I had expected that you shorten the curriculum. One thing that is not there is that I am an alumni of Relaciones in Monterrey, one of the binational centers. So I started in 1978 when the Dead Sea was sick, or no, not dead at that time. And so there's skin on the game for all the mistakes I would make today for the binational centers. So, I work in Tec de Monterrey for short, that's the way that we call it. And I'm not sure if everyone here knows a little bit about Tec de Monterrey before I start my conversation. It's a Mexican university, it's a private university founded more than 70 years ago in Monterrey. Now it has campus in more than 26 cities in Mexico and has sites in other countries in Latin America and in Europe. We have 100,000 students, including high school, around 30,000 high school students, 55,000 undergraduate, and around 15,000 graduate students. Of the graduate students, around 10,000, 8,000 are online students, so we have a large online operation in the university. And then we have also a lot of continuing education students face-to-face and online. So one of the projects that I work in Spain was for this Spanish group or bank to deliver continuing education online for them. And it's one of the examples of what we do in Tec de Monterrey. So Tec de Monterrey has been recognized, I will say, to be very innovative during all the years. We have a lot of firsts. For instance, we were the first university in Latin America connected to the internet, just to give you an example. And what I want to talk to you today is how we are reorganizing in education and innovation in the institution and why we are doing that. So I expect that you will enjoy it and that will be also entertaining for you and you will learn something during this. So we have seen there is a lot of things moving on, venture capital in educational technology, institutions like MIT, Harvard doing things that they have never done before. So it seems that the higher education arena is moving a lot, and many of these is related to technology, but also to education and innovation. And we think that the model of the university of today can be very different from the model of the university in the following years, decades. So in this talk, I will talk about several things. The first one of them is not related to education, but innovation in general. So as we will speak here, during 1 minute, 300 hours of video were uploaded in YouTube, 2.3 million of searches in Google in 1 second. In 1 day, today, for instance, 1.5 million activations of Android phones and iPhones in the world. More than 1 billion daily active users wasting their time in Facebook. 15 minutes on average spent for each day. So imagine all the amount of time that we spend. And also one interesting thing is the scale. Facebook only has 15,000 employees to do that. Okay. And Twitter, well, Twitter is slowing a lot, so there's some noise about Twitter being, overthrown by other social networks. 1.3 billion accounts created, and 310 million monthly active users with 3,900 employees only. So they do that with a lot of scale, no? Very little employees, and a lot of people using them. Why? Because they only offer the platform. All the content, most of the content is produced by us, the users that spend time there and consume the content from other people on the platform. Well, in this case, also many of these enterprises didn't exist 10 years ago. So 75% of the most important enterprises are new, and in 10 years, it means that in 10 years, those 75% of the enterprises doesn't exist today. Okay? I will talk about digital natives. I know that maybe you know a lot of the millennials, the digital natives, but I will try to approach this from a different angle. You know that sign, what it stands for? Do you know what the millennials do when they go into that place? Besides usual business? So, someone wants to guess? They use your phone. They use their cell phone, yes. So you have here a small, you cannot read it there, but 75% of the Americans with mobile phone, they say they use their phone when they go to the bathroom. Just to be the magazine on my time or the journal. So this is only to tell you the number of people that do things that men use more the cell phone than women on the bathroom. Android user more than iPhone users. And also when you see the generation Y, Generation X, etc., are the millennials, baby boomers, etc. Excuse me? Very interesting data. Yes. And then how many people they say they use there's something from the video, if they can do something because the slides are being cut. The next one. This is the Y generation, X generation, baby boomers, silent generation. So it's the use of technology is very important for the young generation because they have been using technology since they were born. For them, it's natural. It's a natural thing to do. So, how this affects learning? Well, the idea is that this generation of people that are going to the university right now, they expect to use technology everywhere, every time, all the time, and that's what they expect to do with the technology. For them, technology is ubiquitous. And they don't have a sense of anonymity, for instance, and on the networks, etc. They behave very differently from our generation. So another subject related to innovation that I would like to take into account is the disruption in educational models. Disruption is when there's a new model that will potentially take over a new model. For instance, the transistor radio, for those that are old enough, that talk from the vacuum radios, okay? And so those technologies that take over an older technology and make it obsolete. So disruption in educational model, what I will tell you here is an idea, is a thesis, that education is on a historic turn point. It's like when the printed press was invented, for instance, that changed everything around the academic world. And there's a revolution in education right now that is proposed by technology, but that will allow us to create models of education that maybe were invented before, but they weren't possible to scale, because the technology is allowing those models to scale, to make them feasible in terms of financially feasible, for instance. So I will give you an example. I think that most of you know what a MOOC is. Everyone knows what a MOOC is, or should I explain it? No? Have you heard about Coursera? edX? Where Coursera and edX are MOOCs providers. And a MOOC is basically a massive open online courses. It's a course that is delivered online, but instead of having 30 students, 50 students, 100 students, it can have 50,000 students at the same time. How does it work? Well, many of the tasks related to the course are automated, either because there are videos, there is automated assessments with Q&As, multiple choice tests, using artificial intelligence for some of the answers to grade the essays, for instance, and also peer evaluation. The projects of one student is evaluated by 2 peers, and then the average of that is what you have as a grade. It also promotes networking of the students, the help, peer-to-peer help of them, and some of those networks are offline, I mean, in the city where the students are. Coursera, which was one of the first one of these MOOC providers, right now has 140 partners among those very prestigious universities, almost 2,000 courses, and has had 20 million students, and it was created in 2012. So it has 4 years that it has been created. We offer courses in Coursera. We were the first Latin American university offering courses in Spanish. And right now we have been, for the last 3 years, we have 25 courses and we have 320,000 students enrolled. One of our professors is the Vice Provost of Research and Graduate Studies, and he has had more students finishing the courses that he gives on Coursera than all the students he has had in the last 20 years giving courses in Tec de Monterrey, just in the last 3 years. So to give you an idea of scale. So, well, I encourage you to go to the Coursera page and see the courses that we offer. Some of them are in English, most of them are in Spanish. But then, what happens when Georgia Tech does this here? Georgia Tech partnered with AT&T and Udacity, which is another MOOC provider, to offer a complete online master degree for $6,600. They launched the pilot in 2014. The pilot had 500 students. It's a very big pilot. And in and the second semester, they enrolled more than 1,200 students. Okay, this master's degree has been very successful for Georgia Tech. Arizona just launched it with EDX. The Global Freshman Academy is the first year of the university for $5,000 instead of $10,000. And one of the advantages is that you pay for the MOOC $45 for the control test, the proctor test. And if you fail the test, you can take it, and then you only pay the $155 per credit after you succeed on the exam, on the proctor examination, which is very interesting for a student and low-income students. The University of Illinois just launched this year an iMBA. It's an online MBA program. Half of the master's is offered on Coursera, and half of the master is offered as a regular online program. The cost of the program is reduced. It's only a third of the usual cost of the master's. And well, the courses started this spring on this year. And MIT, which is another very prestigious university, is offering a MicroMaster also. They take, the master is in supply chain. So half of the masters can be done using MOOCs. You pay $1,500 for half of the masters. They take the best 40 students and they come to the campus for face-to-face continuing education. And they pay the other half of the master, that is the cost is $33,000. So the reduction is almost a half of the cost. And here the idea of MIT is that they don't have enough students. No, they wanted to train more students with the same faculty. So what they are doing is they're using the same faculty to deliver in the MOOCs, and instead of taking 20 students per year, maybe they're taking 40 students per year, okay? Because they're liberating time of faculty for doing that job as the courses are automated. And then Illinois, with the success of their iMBA, are launching a Master of Computer Science in Data Science, also for maybe half of the cost. So when you see these examples, what if 200 universities do the same, and also prestigious universities as this, because most of these are good universities. They're not like, diploma mills or something like that. Well, I think that what happened to John Hensey when in 2012, he said there's a tsunami coming in an interview with the Atlantic magazine. And then he took 6 months of leave, like a sabbatical, to see what will be the online strategy of Stanford. He is the president of Stanford University. So maybe the technology, the MOOCs, are these waves, this tsunami, and that little person there is the traditional university. I don't know. It's a possibility, and there's a lot of investment right now, as I told you. Coursera is a private investment. EDX is a non-for-profit investment of a group of universities headed by MIT and Harvard. So I think that some of you are skeptical, and we all come from the brick and mortar world, not from the online world, because we were trained on that world. And you think online education will never replace brick and mortar education. Well, let's take a look at history to see other examples of what happened. So in 1994, Amazon was created. They sold books online, or even you can call by phone and send you a physical book. And their competition was Borders and Barnes & Noble. And they say, well, there's no competition for us because people like to go to the bookshop. They like to browse the books, take the book, and home directly at that time. Well, in 2007, they launched the Kindle, this ebook reader. And you know already what the history is. But Barnes & Noble launched the Nook in 2009. In 2011, Borders went out of business, what it says there. And Barnes & Noble has to close some of their brick-and-mortar bookshops and specialize in libraries in universities, which sell very expensive books, by the way, and in shopping malls, etc., for families. So there's a phrase said by the CEO of Border at that time, saying Amazon was not a threat for Barnes & Noble. That's what he says. So I don't have the phrase right now, but you can look it up and see one of those phrases. So this is a group of music. In 1887, if you want to listen to music, you had to do it going to a live band, or you yourself sing or play an instrument. At that time, Thomas Alva Edison created the phonograph. And a lot of people said, well, it's very expensive, the quality is not good, the choice of music is very narrow, there's not a lot of, not the music that I like is not there. Well, with time it evolved, and right now, in 2016, even if we like live music, I like the opera, I come to Houston very often to the opera, for instance, here, and I would like classical music, and the opportunities I have to hear music live are very narrow, very, very small, less maybe than 1%. Most of the music that I hear is digital right now, okay? So I give you this example to tell you, I don't think that brick and mortar education will die, but I think that will be reduced. I don't know if it will be 1%, maybe more, much more than 1%, but the quantity or the percentage of online blended and face-to-face brick-and-mortar education will change during time. So that's the idea that I want to give you today in this talk. So taking into account this context, what will be the university of the future? And in Tec de Monterrey, we are worried about that because we are a university. And so we want to change, and we want to be part of that change and not be left behind. So as I told you, we have been very active doing educational innovation, and I was during 1 year, I was the director of the Central Services of Educational Innovation for Tec de Monterrey, until the 1st of June, in which we decided to divide that in two parts. So we have one group that is dedicated to do innovation on the core, and the core means the projects that we have for the next, let's say, 5 years. So our educational model is evolving right now, and it's not a simple thing. I will tell you later what we are doing, but that's more like the immediate thing. And then more disruptive innovation is to experiment with models that we see that in 2030 and beyond will be useful for a university to still exist and be relevant in the world. So we divided that into groups. So I will tell you a little bit on the first one. And we are building right now what we call the educational model Tech 21, which is related to the 21st century skills that we want students to develop. And the idea is that we want them to have our students challenging and interactive learning experiences, flexibility in the teaching and learning process, and inspiring teachers. Those are the three pillars of our model. But I will tell you more what will be a day in the life for a student of Tec de Monterrey in 2019. I think that will be easier to understand. So when you come to Tec de Monterrey right now, you choose if you want to be an industrial engineering or you want to be a business administrator bachelor's degree. Is the way that in Latin America works. Most of the time you choose at the beginning what kind of degree you want to do. In 2019, the students will register in a subject area or discipline. They would choose business or engineering or technologies, information technologies, etc. And they will follow different paths with a lot of breadth on the subjects that they choose so that they find out what kind of engineer or business or whatever they want to be in their degree. Instead of registering on courses, they will be registering on challenges, real-world challenges that they will solve for business, ONGs, government, etc. And those challenges will be designed, most of them by their professors, but some of them also by students, will have attached some learning modules. Those learning modules can be face-to-face, can be online, can be blended, can be MOOCs, for instance. And the students will develop the competencies that we expect to develop on those challenges. They are designed to develop those competencies. Disciplinary competencies and also horizontal competencies like collaborative work, communication skills, etc. And the students will be assessed on what they know at the end of those challenges. So at the beginning, they will have maybe 4 challenges at the same time, small challenges of 1 week, and at the end, they will have one semester with a full challenge, only one challenge for the semesters. Some of the challenges will be in their cities, some in other cities in Mexico, or even in other countries. So that will be the experience for a student in 2019 in Tec de Monterrey. This is the innovation on the core. This is what we're doing. And this is an example of one of the classrooms that we have already right now in our campus. Around 70% of our classrooms have this kind of chairs and desktops, etc. So the other part is the disruptive part of the innovation. And what we want to, that's the part I'm in charge of. So what we want to do is 3 things, and we call it Tech Labs Learning Reimagine is the name of the area. The first is to experiment, then observe, and then evaluate the impact. Experiment with pilots that will allow us to know how education will be in 2030. We cannot foresee how education will be, we have to build it. So that's the idea of experimented. So the horizon of time is longer than Tech 21, and the level of risk of this experiment is higher also. Right? We expect some of these experiments not to work. So the observation of threats and opportunities in educational innovation is what's going around the world. So what we nourish from that to build new experiments. And the evaluation of impact of educational innovation is because we are, in general, I think, not very good to evaluate what we do. Okay, what is the impact of our projects top-down, the projects that our provost, our president builds and are created and come from the leadership to our professors and our students, and the projects that come bottom-up, those projects that our own professors create and build, and we haven't been able to evaluate those projects, what the impact is. So I will give you a little overview of the 3 things, and that will be the end of my talk. So to foster experimentation in our faculty, we have Novus, which is a funding that the university gives to our professors. It used to be more than $1 million a year, but with the exchange rate, that changed a lot. I think it's like around something like $800,000 a year. And it has been increasing. We passed from 31 projects in 2012 to 104 projects in 2015, and around the same number of projects for this year. We are about to tell the professors who has been awarded money to do that project. We have been successful in that some of these projects, we have identified the project that can be scale to the university. So maybe one professor in campus Guadalajara did a project with financed by Novus, and then that project was detected by the vice provost of undergraduate, and that right now that technique, it can be technological, it can be pedagogical, it can be just a new technique of teaching or evaluation of competencies or whatever, is now used widely in every campus that we have in Tec de Monterrey. We have also been very active in the competitions of QS, STARS, Reimagine Education, and one of our professors, some of our professors have won the competition in 2014 and 2015, around, I think, 8 prizes, more or less, in the 2 years. And I will want to give you an example of those projects. That is a project for teaching math. There's a small video here. The project is using augmented reality, so the professor is using, or the students will be using this tablet there, and this palette with a special mark on it. There are 2 palettes. One of these palettes is to show the curve or volume of that is represented by a formula, and instead of just telling the students what the formula is, they can represent that on the space, on 3D. But with the other tool, the student can cut what the formula is producing to see what is the way the cuts are produced, and understand better their math and their formulas. So it's making math something tangible. Well, the other thing is not just the software, which is very interesting by itself, but it's also how the software is used during a regular classroom. And the professor is very fond of collaborative learning, peer learning. So I will play a video very fast. So you see, she is the professor of math, Patricia Salinas, that is coming to one of our classrooms with the students and what they will be doing during the lesson. So they are in a different setting of classroom, different tables, different chairs, and then the students work in groups. They take the QR code to download the application, and then they start to work in teams around a problem, around a scenario that was built by this math professor, okay? So as you can see, they're actively engaged, and they're not just immersed in their laptop, they're collaborating and discussing how to interpret those formulas and those volumes on the space. This is another example of a project. I will play a video. The audio in the video is not very good, but I think it's worth seeing it. I think, yeah. Well, the interesting thing here is that this is in Zacatecas, and the professor is not here. It's a hologram. The professor is in Aguascalientes. Yes. So the students are in this classroom. That's why it's a little bit dark, so they can look at the professor. These 2 campuses have been working a lot on just making the professor available remotely. They also have another project that they have been doing for like 4 years right now. They have one of these small robots that moves around the tables and can look at what the students are doing on the table when they're working collaboratively. So they're mixing the 2 so that the students can see the professor on the screen as a real-time professor, a real-size professor, sorry, and they can also see what the students are doing during the collaborative work, okay? For the second, I told you experimentation, evaluation of impact and observation. For evaluation of impact, we are launching a project on September this year. During the last 8 months, we have been developing a framework for evaluating all the educational innovation projects in Tec de Monterrey. This framework is not just a framework, but also a toolkit. As you know, many of the professors in universities they are expert on the subject, but not in education. so they cannot evaluate the impact, educational impact of a project. So one of the things that we want is to give them a toolkit so that they can evaluate themselves what they're doing as educational innovation. And we have developed also some a pocket of money so that we are sure that we can evaluate the most important projects, at least the most important projects. And at the end, what we will have is like a red, amber, and green dashboard where we can see all the projects and see what are the projects that are working well, the projects that must continue with some changes, and what can we learn from those projects that didn't work very well, okay? And we will be developing this, we will be not deploying this framework during this semester, starting in September. I can tell you that the framework, it seems a little bit simple, but it has been a lot of consultation. More than 400 people, leadership and faculty were consulted during the last 8 months. And there are like 5 criteria. The first one is learning outcomes that has like 3 sub-criteria and then like a rubric for evaluation of the projects. The nature of innovation, the institutional alignment of the innovation, the potential of growth of the innovation, and the financial viability of the innovation. And each of these has a different sub-criteria and a rubric to evaluate the projects. And then the last one, I told experiment. I told you we will be doing in Tech Labs experimentation, evaluation of impact, and observation of trends. And here we have the Observatory of Educational Innovation. I encourage you also to subscribe to our newsletter, weekly newsletter that goes out every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Mexico time. Here is the address. You can go there and you leave us your email, and we can give you on your inbox every Tuesday, except on holidays, Christmas holidays, this newsletter. We start to do this for our own faculty, and right now we are doing it for everyone in the world. We do it in Spanish and we do it in English. And so this is the objective of what we do in the Observatory of Education and Innovation. And we have some products. So our weekly review is how we call it, our newsletter in English. We do one for professors and one for educational leaders. The one for professors, for instance, if we are talking about inverted or flipped learning, we will tell our professors the very new trends in flipped learning, how to use it on the classroom, what is the educational model that informs flipped learning, what are the technologies, how to evaluate flipped learning. And we have another weekly review. If we take, once again, the flipped learning subject for directors of department, deans, presidents, provosts, and here we can give them the news of the week. An example will be that the dean of the medical school of Stanford decided that all the pre-med courses will be delivered using flipped learning. So that will be of interest for other administrators, academic administrators, okay? So we survey more than 500 sources every week, and we select the 8 items that are most important. We give a small summary of each of them, and then you can click and go to the original source and read the complete article. But then we started to do that, and they say, well, that's like fast food, I say, okay, yes, something you consume very quickly. And we have slow food also. So we have the EduTrends report. The EduTrends report is more like an in-depth report. It's like a 30, 40 pages report in different subjects. Here you have some examples, flipped learning, competency-based education, adaptive learning, MOOCs, which I talked already. And so these are in the middle of an academic report and a big public report, okay? So we make it very attractive with graphics and colors, etc. So it's very easy to read, and we have been very successful in the downloading of this. We have them in Spanish and in English also, this report. That's an example of some of the pages and the outline of one of those reports that you can download in the webpage. Okay? We also have Conference Watch. Is what are the conference on educational innovation that are worth going to or reading the proceedings. Okay? It's another of the services. And then after we have been doing that for almost 3 years, you can search here a keyword and you will find all the EduTrends weekly reports, etc., that we have done that contain that word that has been created for weeks and weeks and weeks and a lot of time of work. That the idea is that we help our community to navigate in that information overload that is the internet right now. No? That's the idea of the Observatory of Educational Innovation. That's an example of a query on MOOCs on our website. So once again, the invitation to subscribe to the observatory, you can go to observatory.itesm.mx and subscribe to our newsletter. You click on Spanish if you want to go to the Spanish version. So, for instance, if we ask the question, which are the pedagogical and technological trends that you will consider most significant for the development of your students, what we did is ask that question to 100 of our professors in Tec de Monterrey, the most innovative professors that have these Novus projects, educational innovation projects, etc. And we created this that we call the radar of educational innovation for 2015. We did that last year. And I give you an example of what you will find in that report, is what our professors see in terms of years and in terms of percentage of votes that will be coming in the next 3 years. No? So these a lot of average skills. So they see that flexible learning will be with 90% of the votes in around 2.5 years. Okay? They see that gamification is coming in 1 year, very challenge-based learning, blended learning, experiential learning, etc. And we did also the same for technology because these are more like pedagogical innovations. So on technologies, they see augmented reality, like the example of math that I show you, that will be very prevalent in more or less 2 years. The Internet of Things, personalized learning environments, adaptive learning, etc. So I'm going to the end of my presentation. In Tec de Monterrey, I think that we have 2 consensus, and I don't know if you agree with me. The first one is that the university of the future will be completely different from the university of today. And the second one is that we don't know how the university of the future will be. Okay? Thanks. I have never been praised for my ignorance. This is the first time. The interesting thing here is that the future is to be created. And I think that is the best of times because we can create this future of education. We can be part of the creation of that future. So instead of repelling or refusing the change, I think it's better to embrace that change and be like the surfer on the wave instead of that little person that is going to be crushed by the tsunami on the picture that I show you. I know there are some questions. I have some slides and I finished. These are information that I drew from other reports about millennials and people that are in high school. Teens were born into a digital world where they expect to be able to create, consume, remix, and share material with each other and lots of strangers. Only 28% of high school students believe that the school assignments are significant. It means that 72% think that they are not significant, they're worthless. Only 21% believe that their courses are interesting. So 79% believe the courses are boring. Okay. 39% believe their class projects will relate with the success of their professional lives. So the other percentage, the biggest part, thinks what they're doing in high school is not related to their life. So that's the importance of challenge-based learning, for instance, so that can relate what they're learning with real life. And then the students that we have, I don't know, maybe you have seen this. I expect that most of you don't. But this is to give you an example of the students that we'll be getting in the following 10, 15 years that they will arrive to high school. It's like a drug. Well, I don't know if that's true, but that gives you an idea of what the generation of students that is coming that will be very different from the students that we have right now. So how I can innovate, people ask me that question. I think that we have to consider the new profile of students and take advantage of the tools that they use in favor of them and those pedagogical trends that we have. So innovation and educational technology is a threat or a solution for higher education. I think is both, depending how you see it, because it will, the higher education will be changing, and we can take advantage of the technology and the innovation and education to create the new models of higher education that will be maybe not one model, several models, different models. And I want to take the last minutes to invite you to Mexico City from the 12th to the 14th of December to attend our third international conference on education and innovation. All the conferences are delivered either in English, the keynote speakers in English, or they are translated from Spanish to English, if that is the case. And we also, in all the parallel tracks, we always have one of the tracks in English during the conference. So this is the inauguration of last year's conference. We have 2,400 people attending the conference. We are expecting 3,500 this year. It's an international conference. We have around 400 people from other countries, not only Mexico. There are different kind of workshops, presentations, panels, keynotes, etc. And well, the call for papers has finished right now. We accepted 400 papers, panels, and posters. But you can, I can tell you who are the confirmed keynote speakers. Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State University. The reputation is that he is the most innovative university in the United States, Arizona State University, so he will be delivering one of the keynotes. There's also Dean Kamen. Dean is known because he is the inventor of the Segway, among other 500 inventions that he has. And he is also the founder of FIRST, the robotics competition that was developed because he thought that the high school are not developing the love for STEM and science, technology, engineering, math. And it's a competition that develops not only the engineering and the science skills, but also all those soft skills, human skills, collaboration, multiculturalism, etc. We will have Rosenbosch. She's a Dutch artist and architect specialized in innovative learning environments. Okay, all the classrooms. Alfredo Hernando is interesting because he is a professor that crowdfunded a project to visit like 10 countries and 21 schools that are very innovative on the world. And he has this report, what he found that they have in common, these schools and universities around the world. And Magdalena Mervila is a disciple of the inventor of imaginative education and is in Simon Fraser. She's Chilean and is associate director of this project, and he will be talking about this project. The idea is to introduce imagination and also to leave a space for the students to develop their own passion during the school. The idea is that go more in depth on the subjects by letting the students a space to develop their passion during the school. I think that will be very interesting. Well, James Spain-Becker is the executive director of their equivalent to our Tech 21 project in the University of Texas in Austin. And Luis Pastor is the director of the e-learning center of the Universidad Oberta de Catalunya. And we have other keynote speakers that will be coming during the next weeks. So I will leave you also the webpage of our Congress so that you can take a look and decide if you want to join us on the conference. It's caiie.mx from the 12th to the 14th of December. And you can go to the Basilica on the 12th also if you want. The Basilica de Guadalupe is that day. So that's what we do on Tech Labs: experimentation, observation of trends, and evaluation of impact. And we just luck because we just started. We have been doing that for 1 month and a half. And there are other projects that are coming, and I expect I will have the opportunity to see you in the future and tell you how we are doing on those projects. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions? And yes? Mm-hmm. English language teaching. Okay, well, we have been doing, our online operation is very large. We have done it very differently to other universities. Most universities have gone from face-to-face to blended and to online, and we did face-to-face and then online and then blended. So we are doing blended in some courses, in undergraduate, in high school, and in master's degree courses. The results has been very good. I think that it's a different kind of market. Blended and online is not the same market. We have done some tests that offering face-to-face courses or sessions to online students, and they don't come. And then I will summarize the findings is, don't you know that I register in an online course because I don't want to go to the campus? That's what we have found. I'm not sure in teaching languages. I cannot tell you exactly that. I will have to look at some work with my colleagues. I don't have the information. Sorry, there was one question there. You mean research is more like a market research or? You mean like the Arizona example that I showed there? Well, in our case, that is not possible because we have very strict, the number of times that you can fail a test and the number of times that a student can fail a course and then you're out of the university. The mission of ASU is different because ASU is a university that is more open. It's open for everyone. It's a public university. It's a state university. I think that the idea there is more like giving financial access to education. But I think that you're right. The level of challenge is it could be more like boring or even how you say that turning you down to continue on the university. But we haven't done that kind of research. Yes. Well, there's one more question. Yes.
So, what do you see as being the role of libraries in the future of education and the trend we're seeing towards information commons and other kinds of changes in support for learning?
The role of what? Sorry.
The role of libraries.
Librarians.
The trend we're seeing towards information
Okay. Okay.
like videotecas.
Yes. I know. I used to be the director of the Masters of Library Science. No, I think that the role of librarians is very important, but it's evolving a lot, that area. And in our case, for instance, we're a multi-campus university. So we took the decision more than 10 years ago to invest on digital, assets for the libraries, because it was more cost-effective to have a digital asset and share it between all our 26 cities where we have campus. We have like 35 campus in 26 cities, including high school campus, and business schools, etc. So we have invested a lot on that, and so we think that in Mexico, librarians is very different from the United States. So I think that the way that it works in the United States is much better. So I have been pushing a lot when I was in that area to follow more the model of the United States, and which I think is better, that you do a bachelor's degree in something and then that you do a master's degree, and that give you a different approach to that, to the area, so that you can advise someone from your original area, and also to put some innovation also in the libraries, because if there's librarians, that you will not innovate, because that's not the way to go. So we have invested a lot of libraries and librarians in our university. I think that the role of the librarians will be very important in the future. And one of the things is, I think, curating content. And the other thing is, which is not only the librarians, but also the library systems, is that the users are used to Google things. And when you go to the library, it's very different. And you have to have different sets of skills. So the way that you search in a library is very different to the way you search on the internet. And that's the competition. It's like in an online course, if you have video, people are aware of video because they see a lot of hours of TV, cinema, movies, etc. So when they see video in an online course, they expect something of certain quality, etc. So the same is happening right now with libraries. And I think the most important is the development of those skills in our students. In our university, it's mandatory that we do some activities. I don't think it's fabulous. I will just tell you this because we do this. In some of the courses, high school, undergraduate, and masters, the students are supposed to develop the skills for looking at information, deciding on the relevance of information and the validity of the information, and etc. So those skills are part of the curriculum. They're embedded on the curriculum. But I think that there's a lot of work to do in libraries. No more questions? Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. As a proud alumni of Relaciones.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure, especially having an ex-student here, not mine, of course, but
think you give
the
me a
Tecnológico
course,
de I did teach you a course. Maybe I
think-
did.
I
Yeah.
think.
Tecnológico de Monterrey is building a new library, actually.
Yes, we are building a new
It's
library, yes.
Beautiful. It's going to be
We
beautiful.
tear down the library, we're building one that is like twice the size. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
a beautiful new library. So, thank you very much. This is on behalf of ABLA.
Thank
And
you.
we may be having Habla Express in Monterey next year, so.
Oh, great.
Visit you.
That would be great, great. Thank you. Thank you. Gracias.